Hi everybody, this is Victoria. Welcome back to another episode of Discovering Art Together, and today we're going to talk about portraits. So something a little bit different from the other two episodes or three episodes that we did of Corot's landscape paintings. Today we are going to talk about Corot's portrait paintings. Yes, it's still about Corot though, but we're going to go into portrait paintings. And did he have a connection with Leonardo da Vinci? Now we must be wondering, Corot and Leonardo da Vinci, do they have a connection? Maybe. So today we're going to jump into this new discovery of what I've found by looking at a series of paintings, and we're going to learn and see if there were some connections between the two artists. Let's get started. So how did all this research start was actually really interesting. So basically I was doing this research about Corot's big impact on his Italian landscape paintings, right? And then once I kind of found that, I was like, okay, that's a pretty cool and interesting painting that Corot did. So I was like, okay, let's see if he did any portrait drawings. And he actually did. And some of his portrait drawings are very, very beautiful. And I found this one that intrigued me, took my attention, and it is called Woman with a Pearl. So you can actually search that up on Google or Wikipedia, and you can take a look at that painting, or you can take a look at it over here. And it's a gorgeous painting. Now, once I saw this, the first impression that I had is like, ooh, it has Mona Lisa vibes, you know? It was like, okay, it got like some of the relation, and then the thing that I noticed was mostly the hand position. So I don't know how she positioned her hand, but I think it's somewhere that way. But the hand position was very, very similar, slightly bit different though, but similar enough to Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. And I was also thinking it wasn't just the Mona Lisa painting that was part of Corot's painting of Woman with a Pearl. There was a mix of different paintings from Leonardo da Vinci, and it's as if you were to squeeze them all in and kind of create this brand new painting by mixing all the paintings together to create something completely brand new. So the other two paintings that I want to mention or the other three paintings, is Mona Lisa's twin, La Belle Ferronnière, and the other painting is Lady with an Ermine, and I think I pronounced that correctly. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, what exactly did Corot probably take from Leonardo da Vinci's portrait paintings? Now, this is not a fact. I'm pretty sure that Corot probably didn't have too much connections or inspiration from Leonardo da Vinci though, but it's just a wild guess that I thought maybe they had some type of connection. But let's jump in to see what were similar, but what kind of things did Corot slightly change to kind of appeal to his taste, and also what he thought that looks a lot better in his point of view. The first thing is, as you notice on the two paintings over here, the hand position was the most familiar element that was very close to each other. Now, even though the position wasn't quite the same, because as you can see, Corot's painting, the hand position is slightly a bit further apart than Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa had her hands a lot closer to one another, while Corot's hands are slightly bit more spaced out, so the hand wasn't exactly on top of the other hand. The other thing that was very similar was the hair ornaments in Corot's painting of Women with a Pearl. And the painting that related to was actually La Belle Ferronnière. I thought it was actually Lady with an Ermine, because that was the first painting that came up to mind, but I totally forgot that there was also another painting that was very similar to, and I wanted to refer to that one. So La Belle Ferronnière was the exact one that I wanted to reference to because the hair ornament and the style of probably that period of time, how they aesthetically dressed and wear their clothing and what was that word? Their clothing and accessories were like that in that particular style. So those are very similar things that Corot kind of kept, though he kind of changed a few things there, but most of the times he kind of kept it pretty similar. Okay, so now let's take a look at the background. So as you can see, the two backgrounds for the lady with an ermine and La Belle Ferronnière, they both have a very, very dark background that kind of creates a void, a depth, and kind of like a space where we can kind of emerge into the background, and it kind of has a infinity or limitless kind of feeling to it. So it has a lot of depth and deepness to it. And if you take a look at the Mona Lisa, that also has a lot of depth and deepness to it, but it was shown in a very different way. Leonardo used a landscape and perspective to show that deepness and that depth and perspective, while Corot's painting was a lot brighter background though, but he kept it simple so that it didn't distract it from the main subject, which is the portrait. So he kind of chose a lighter background though, but he did balance it out very well because of the clothing that the woman with a pearl has really dark clothing in the front, so it kind of helped out separating it with the background. Now, if Corot were to choose a very dark background, it would express a very different feeling. Not saying that it would be bad or anything if he did chose to choose a darker background. It was just that he would have to use different ways to express the outline and borderlines of the chest, shoulders, and body of the person in that portrait in order to kind of be able to see and visualize the whole person in the painting. Now let's talk a little bit about perspective and what did they use to create this perspective. So let's take a look at La Belle Ferronnière. This painting is really interesting because Da Vinci used the ledge or the table or the stone that she is leaning on, and that already gives us some space and dimension and kind of telling us that there is a ledge in front before we meet the person, and then having a deep dark background to extend and further continue the depth and deepness of the perspective. So that's how that perspective worked. And now if we take a look at Lady with an Ermine, the ermine is put on the foreground, so you have all these different layers of perspective. So we have the ermine at the very front, and then you have the person or the portrait, which is in the middle, and then you have a very deep dark background as the background for this painting to give it a lot of perspective that way. And if you see the Mona Lisa, it's also very similar. And then the same thing for the twin version of the Mona Lisa, we also do see the landscape in the background, and then also is a ledge behind the Mona Lisa. So this one's a little bit different because you see the Mona Lisa is in the foreground, and then you have the balcony or the ledge on over there, and then you have the background and landscape to further kind of add in the depth and deepness and perspective into the painting. And Corot used something a little bit different though. He kind of limited the amount of elements that he wanted to add. So basically he mostly used elements that were part of the portrait and the figurative and the person that he was painting. So as you can see that his clothing in the front kind of gives depth and layer itself before you reach the face and the portrait side, and then the background. Da Vinci and Corot use different ways to express perspective in a portrait, and it's really interesting that there are so many different elements that you can actually use to describe the flat and the deep. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about color and what did we see that are similar with all of these paintings that we have here. So Corot has black, white, yellow, brown, and a bit of red for his paintings. Corot's painting was a lot more neutral because you see a lot more of the browns, the whites, and the blacks. So the white and black is probably her clothing, and also the black areas would be the darkest area of the painting. And then the skin tones, I would usually categorize that as white because it is a lot lighter. And then the brown, which we probably see the most, is majority the background areas where it's kind of keeping everything else balanced and also enveloping the portrait. And then you have La Belle Ferronnière, which is also black, white, brown, and then there's also a bit of yellow, and then red is our main color. She has the dominant color in red, which is her clothing, and then also a little bit of her accessories. And then I would categorize white as the skin tone, and then black as the dark shadows and also the dark background. And then anything else that's more or less neutral, we have a little bit of browns for the ledge that was in the front, and also a bit of the skin tone. So the skin tone kind of blends in a little bit of that though, but those are the main color palettes that is used in this painting. And then the lady with the ermine is black, white, blue, brown, and also gold. She has the red and the blue as her clothing, and then she also has these special ornaments and kind of extra little details which we accented it with gold colors. And then the black is definitely the background, so we have a lot of that enveloping the person in this portrait. And then her hair would be categorized a little bit of a brown, and it kind of acts as a middle color or a middle tone to kind of act as a bridge to soften the edge a little bit so that it connects a little bit better with the background and bring it towards to the foreground. And then the ermine is definitely something that's a lot lighter. There is a little bit of brownish yellow to it though, but that will also mean that that is also considered more of a lighter part. And then the Mona Lisa has more neutral colors as well. So she has black, white, and then she has lots of earth tones like browns, yellows, and also green in the background. We have the white and the black, which is black is generally her clothing, and also anywhere else that we have darker shadows. Her skin tone is more of like a yellowish white. It is the brightest color / tone in the painting, while the background has more of the more cooler colors because it is more in the distant, further out in the landscape in the background. So that has more greens, probably a little bit of blues though, but a lot more like lower key tones and colors. Now let's talk a little bit about composition. Did they use a lot of the golden ratio? And the answer is yes. Golden ratio is actually found throughout all of these paintings that we are looking at today, and they kind of use them in very similar ways. As you can see, Corot's painting or the position of the person is more placed on the right side of the painting, so he kind of used the line, the vertical golden ratio line on the right side, and the face or the placement of the place where we want to focus a lot more is also using the horizontal placement of the golden ratio. And the hand is kind of getting close to the bottom area of where the golden ratio is, so those are a very good composition balance that Corot used in his paintings. Now let's take a look at Leonardo da Vinci. Let's take a look at the Mona Lisa first. The Mona Lisa was very well balanced because we have the the Mona Lisa not on the golden ratio, but the Mona Lisa was actually placed in between the two golden ratios lines that we see in this painting. And that's actually a very interesting way to using the golden ratio, because it actually gives a lot more support, because generally the position that Mona Lisa is posing or is placed has a very good balance, because it has this triangular shape, which basically has a good symbolic way of saying that it's very sturdy and it's very strong, because it's wider at the bottom and the top part is getting skinnier and going into a point. And definitely the face is placed at the horizontal golden ratio line over there, so that gives even more kind of focus so that we actually look in that particular area. And then her hand and more or less the ledge in the back, or the balcony edge there, that's where the bottom horizontal golden ratio is placed. Now let's take a look at Lady with an Ermine. That composition is also very interesting, because as you can see, the portrait is placed more or less on the right side. So Da Vinci placed the lady on the right side of the golden ratio, and then also the face is also using the horizontal top part of the golden ratio. He did a really smart thing where he actually put his secondary subject, which is technically the ermine, so that animal is placed on the lower part of the horizontal line of the golden ratio, along with the hands of the lady. And last but not least, we'll take a look at La Belle Ferronnière. So she is also placed on the right side of the vertical golden ratio, and the face is also placed on the top horizontal line of the golden ratio. And then as you can see, the lower bottom part of the golden ratio, it kind of meets more or less where her chest and her body is, so it kind of helps us build more depth and layer, but the main idea is that the main focal point is where her face is at the very top. Okay, and that is it for today. Those are my discoveries of Corot's portrait paintings and Leonardo da Vinci's portrait paintings, and how I kind of had this funny thought. It was like really surprising, but at the same time it was really interesting, because I was like, oh, okay, it has some kind of connection. I'm not sure if anybody else has discovered this, or maybe they actually do have some kind of connection. Maybe Corot did have inspiration from Leonardo da Vinci while he was painting Women with a Pearl. Who knows? But thank you for watching this brand new video, and also learning something new about whether if Corot had any connection with Leonardo da Vinci through his portrait paintings. And if you guys discovered anything new out of these two paintings, or any other paintings that really do interest you, please do comment below. I would really love to learn more and also discover as well together, and kind of see what other things that we kind of didn't quite notice beforehand, and we can actually take a look at it in a whole new way and perspective. Okay, and that's pretty much it for today. So thank you again so much, and I hope you learned something new about these portrait paintings, and I will see you guys in the next episode. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and I shall see you in the next Discovering Art Together. Take care, everybody. Stay creative, have fun, and learn and discover more. Bye!